Alex, can you show us how Databricks 1 works and tell us a little bit as to what it means for both your business users as well as for your more developers or more of your traditional developers?
Definitely, Jose. So Databricks 1 is really intended to be an experience for business users that's a little bit more friendly for them. Right? If you're a developer, you typically are in Databricks and you have a lot of complexity. You have the compute tab, model serving, workflows, all these different things that your typical business user isn't going to want to go and dive through. So this is a really simple experience designed to just find the data and assets that you really care about. So I've got a search bar here, and I can just kind of search for a dashboard or a Genie space, for instance. But something new that we're working on as part of this experience is this ask button here. And then I can do something like, what was store performance across all my New York City locations? And then Genie's going to go ahead and try to answer that question. And the advantage here is it's actually going to search across all the Genie spaces that I have available, right? So you can see here, it's saying, hey, I'm going to ask New York City coffee shops a question. And I can change that if I got it wrong, but I'm just going to hit continue. And so like typically you would have to have the user go kind of find that right space, right? And ask that question in that particular space. But here the advantage is we find that space for you and we're able to write that SQL query. So now you see, okay, here is kind of the summary of the results here. Midtown is the top performer, followed by West Village and then Williamsburg, and I can kind of get that Genie visualization there. Right, so it gives me a bit more of an experience for the business user that's a little easier than the kind of routing and navigating. But from here, I can also go and I can open up a dashboard, right? So I can open up, for instance, a New York City coffee shop dashboard, and now I can enter that dashboard particular view.
Now, Alex, I know that there are many companies that say dashboards are going to be replaced by chatbots type of experience. Now, Databricks actually came out with both AI/BI dashboards and AI/BI Genie. So first off, when do you use one over the other? And the second question is, can you show us as to how the two tools, both AI/BI dashboards and AI/BI Genie, work together?
So we think there's use cases for both of these tools individually, and then there's also use cases for having them sort of combined together, right? And kind of a lot of different examples there. So kind of on the dashboarding side in particular, what we're starting to see is we're starting to see simpler dashboards. Right, so I've got an example here, and it's got like the key things that I might come back to day in, day out, week in, week out, right? Like, I really care about my total sales and my sales at each location. Like, that's just something that I'm going to see every single time I look at this dashboard, for instance, right? But then, you might want to have like this long tail of questions after that. And that's kind of where traditional dashboarding gets a little difficult because you'll find these monstrosities of a dashboard. And it's, 20 pages long and there's 50 visualizations on each page. And like you have to click in like 5 different places to kind of get to the exact menu that you need to like do this particular filtering action. And so it gets really complex to navigate. And like all you really want is just the answer to your question. And that's where Genie comes into play, right? So Genie can let me kind of operate on top of the dashboard itself and be able to ask questions just in that context, right? So let's say actually I clicked on, maybe this T category, right? So let's find T here. And we can do things, for instance, in the dashboard, we can do something like drill to the detailed breakdown as well, right? So let's say I was on this detailed breakdown on the T page, and I was looking at my trailing 7-day sales. I can actually just select this box, and Genie will understand that selection. And now I can kind of ask a follow-up question and deep dive into that, right? So I can say like, break this out by subcategory, for instance. Right? Genie can understand that, hey, I've selected this visualization that's kind of now filtered to my T sales. And then it can go ahead, write the query to actually analyze and break that down on a deeper level, right? So now you can see, okay, so let's break this down by different product subcategories. And we've got our specialty teas, hot teas, and iced teas, right? And so that's kind of the process of building a dashboard that we now see going forward is this sort of consolidation around, hey, just a few simple visualizations, show what's in your data model, and then really let Genie answer that kind of long tail of question.
It's I love this. This is much better, I think, than the previous iterations that think I saw of that Genie and dashboards integration. So I love that it's not just a generalized like, oh, here's another Genie space stacked onto this. It's like, well, you can actually use it as a drill down experience. So I like that. So you have your weekly numbers that you like to check. Awesome. You have your dashboards ready. But whenever you want to more of have that understanding as to why did this number change, you can easily do it here with using Genie as your drill down.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the experience that we're building towards. And there's a lot of pieces that go into that, right? So we're working on like how do you make more even specific selections in certain ways? Can you have like kind of nice interactions where things happen in the dashboard itself in certain ways? So a lot more coming here, but this is kind of the vision that we see ourselves moving towards.
One of the things that Databricks teased out was the agent mode or agent research mode. Knowing Databricks, I don't know what the name is at this point.
So research agent is something we're really excited about. And basically the story goes, when we launched Genie, we started like trying to talk to our customers, figure out what they're asking Genie, what they're using it for. And we noticed that a lot of people are asking these kind of more open-ended questions, right? So like, why did something happen? What caused this? What should I do about this? And these are questions that were really tough for the traditional Genie system because it was designed more as sort of like a question answer. What were sales this week in this place? So we wanted to build something that could really solve that second category of use case. And that really is what Research Agent is awesome at. So I can come in here to Research Agent mode and I can ask a question, something like, how can I improve my store sales? And what Research Agent does is it takes that question and it breaks it down into a plan, right? So it's going to come up with a series of steps that it can walk through. These are basically different hypotheses. So you can see here, it say, hey, okay, I'm going to analyze sales trends and patterns over time first, then performance across store locations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for each one of these plans, for each one of these actions, it'll write the query, analyze the results, and then depending on how that shakes out, it might actually ask more questions and try to pose a new hypothesis and validate that, right? So there's a bit of this loop built in. Just like an analyst would think about a problem and try to break it down, Research Agent can kind of go through and step in that same path there. So this could take some time. So I do have an existing example that I've run earlier today that I can pull up and show just to show that experience. This was kind of an earlier run of Research Agent. You can see all the different hypotheses and questions that are posed. And then this is the result of that analysis, right? So you can see, hey, okay, one of the problems is that our package drinks have this kind of really low margin and it's not doing super great for us, right? So maybe we can kind of try to replace some of those items with higher margin items, right? And it's calling out the acai bowl, for instance, and the protein smoothie as potential candidates there. It's now saying, hey, the second piece is the afternoon sales kind of have been dipping. And you can kind of see this dip by hour of day where it just keeps falling. Maybe we could try to boost traffic in the afternoon, right? Are there certain items that we can offer or change up our mix a little bit to capture more of that afternoon traffic? And then it's going into things like basket size as well. It's calling that West Village has done a bit better than some of the other locations as well. So it's been really great at trying to kind of analyze, provide hypotheses, provide reasons for things to explore, to look at and dive into further. And now, as with regular GD, right, you don't want to just kind of see the LLM send you information, right? You also do want to understand and analyze like what's going on under the hood. So I can go ahead and, for instance, open up any of these kind of hypotheses that are ran and really try to understand what's going on underneath it, right? And I can even go so far as to show the code and really analyze, hey, what was the query that was written? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense, et cetera?
So instead of it just being an LLM that's connected to your data, there is governability behind it. There's explainability behind it, which is, I cannot understate, or I cannot state this enough. With anything LLMs, you need explainability to trust the numbers.
Exactly. It's not a black box and just going to give you an answer and you're like, whatever. Like you can actually vet this. And then there's kind of a human in the loop process, right? So you can actually have your admin come in, they can take a look at it, they get their kind of monitoring over the questions and things like that so they can understand what's going on.
Well, thank you so very much for that, Alex. And if you're watching this, I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.